Hello everyone, and welcome to our final installment in our TwilightTober series of videos. I am Daniel P. once again to talk about, yet again, the Twilight Zone, but specifically talk about Twilight Zone's creator, Mr. Rod Serling himself. And make sure you say Serling because funny story, I got into a contest, a video contest, a long time ago, and I did a video about the Twilight Zone, and I ended up saying Rod Sterling instead of Serling. And I always thought that people kind of ended up saying his name as Sterling instead of Serling. I just thought that's what my ear kind of picked up when thinking about it. But then, no, you have to look at the name carefully. It's Serling, not Sterling. But anyway, let's forget about that, and let's move on to the important topic at hand, which is talking about what if there was a movie about Rod Serling and his life. What kind of movie would that be? What kind of film would that be? What kind of biography would that be? And I came to 4 points. 4 ideas came to mind when it came to creating a Rod Serling biopic. And I had them written down on this very fancy piece of paper right here. So here I'm going to give my thoughts. Earthquake test. I'm going to give my thoughts about what would be the best way to set up a Rod Serling biopic film. And just as a reminder now, everything I say, these are my thoughts. So I want to make it clear that everything I say, every idea I'm going to tell you, it's going to be copyrighted. Everything I'm going to tell will be copyrighted. So that way, if anyone hears what I'm going to say, if anyone sees this video and says, oh, I'm going to use his ideas, you can't. Because I already put down in this video, see, there it is. It's all around. You can't miss it. It's right here in front of your face. This is copyrighted. So you cannot use this idea. If you want to, you have to talk to me about it. All right? Okay. So after that, let's move on to what would a Rod Serling movie be comprised of? Well, here is the first idea that should be a part of the beginning of the film. So when the film starts, the first act definitely would have to do with Rod Serling's childhood. And you really cannot have this part of his life out of the movie because this is really actually the crucial element of his life, really. Actually, you can say that about the other elements that are going to happen in the story too, but it's Rod Serling's experience growing up in the place he grew up in, which is Binghamton. I hope I said that right. Binghamton, New York, which is upstate New York, and it's a very kind of think Midwest town feel, like a small Midwest town. Lots of trees, lots of good-looking lawns. Really looks like not much happens in that place that he grows up in, but it's really opens up to the imagination when it comes to just like green nature itself, and the fact that you can do so, the fact that you're a little kid and you grow up in that kind of environment, so much to do and so many ideas that come to mind. I mean, you can use your imagination for so much, and you don't have the hustle and bustle urban life kind of getting in the way. You don't have those kind of modern day hiccups getting in your way to kind of make life a little bit more exciting for you as a kid. And that's that would be act one of the story, which is his growing up with his family. And then the second thing that will happen, the second act, will be his life as a GI and the experiences that he has when he goes off to fight in World War II. Because Rod Serling did fight in World War II, and he actually fought in the Philippines. And I think this is the first parts of Rod Serling's experience. This is when he first gets, he realizes the kind of drama that would later be seen in the Twilight Zone. Because when I feel that if he go, his feelings would be he goes off to war. He goes off to this very exotic, very peaceful looking place like the Philippines. It's, you know, kind of a less or more it's like Asia. And he's like, "Oh, this is so wonderful. Look at this place. It's great." Hold on. Drop my notes. It's so wonderful and great. And that experience of being in a very great place, well, a very exciting place, which kind of brings him back to his childhood of when he grew up in upstate New York. That kind of carefree, I can live out my imagination because this place is just like a wonderland of bright, exciting elements. And then having that kind of idea of an exotic environment, juxtapose it with the harsh craziness of a war zone, I think that kind of would play into his the way he would kind of present the Twilight Zone. Here you're kind of in a world that is kind of blissful, it's happy, it's fun, but then there's also an uncertainty to it. It's crazy, it's unpredictable. You don't know what's going to happen, and I think maybe his experience in that kind of war zone probably actually helped him into the presentation of the Twilight Zone. And also, I would also say that if there was going to be a really pivotal moment too in that moment where he's in the Philippines and he's experiencing all that stuff, I would also say that there should be a scene where he and some other soldiers are in a tent and they're watching propaganda film, because that also too would play into his feelings about how one group of people tries to demonize another group of people, and how that whole war of prejudice and racism and how that just kind of becomes into a tug of war and a bad relations development. Because I kind of see Rod Serling going, I can't believe that people really go to this extreme just to make another group of people look savage and animalistic. Like, how can you live after this kind of experience? I kind of see Rod Serling saying something like that and actually going through a moment like that. So then the third part would be, and this would be the final part, this would be his life after the war, becoming a writer and trying to live and work and strive as a writer. Because after the war, he then became a writer, and he said if it wasn't for World War II, I would probably never be a writer. So he wanted to get his feelings of the war out of him, and then he just wanted to express his feelings about what he had gone through, and but he also wanted to show that there was some hope for life, a much better life, despite the horrors that you might experience in your life. So he then goes on. He writes very important pieces of work like Patterns and Requiem for a Heavyweight, and some other things as well that didn't turn out too well because he did write some bad stuff along the way. So the third act would be about him struggling to be a writer and trying to be a successful writer. And so you then show that triumph of the personal will, and the fact that even though it looks like it's a hopeless situation for him to make a life and career out of, he still is able to become a success. And then I think the final scene of the film, or however you want to present this biopic, the last scene should be Rod Serling writing the first ever episode of The Twilight Zone, which is, God, what was it? I'm trying to remember now. Now I'm blanking out here. I'm sorry. Uh, it was the Pearl Harbor one. I'm gonna put the title right here in the video, so because I can't think of it right now. So that is how the film ends when he writes the first episode of the Twilight Zone, and I think that's the best way to have the Twilight Zone in this film, because I think if you show the Twilight Zone in a biopic of Rod Serling, then I don't think it's really necessary, because my feeling is the public knows the Twilight Zone so well, they don't need to explore it in this kind of film, in this kind of story. Kind of like how when you're showing the story of a musician and his that part in his life where he's growing up to become the famous musician, we don't have to see him play out his favorite, I mean, the well-known songs that he will do eventually in the future, because we already know that. We expect to see that if they're going to show it. But in this case, you don't show what we already know. We just show the growing pains and the struggles and the experiences of the person we're watching, and we see how they become the person they ultimately become. So that's going to be, actually, that's going to be it for now, because I have nothing else to say. I wanted to make this kind of short, if that was possible, and uh, I really have no other ideas for Twilight Zone videos after this. This is the 3 videos I came up with were all the ideas I could come up with, and so I think this might be the last video I do for October, for Halloween. I just can't think of anything else to do. I just hope everyone enjoyed what they saw and what they heard, and I hope you enjoyed this experience, because I love the Twilight Zone. I hope people who watch this, you enjoyed me talking about the Twilight Zone, because it's one thing you can never get tired of. You can never get tired of talking about the Twilight Zone. It's one of the great American inventions. Yeah. So, that's, yeah, that's going to be it for now. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the future.